His wife had always forbidden dogs in the house, but this mild-mannered man from Beijing finally stood up to his entire family. For once, I am standing my ground. I love this dog, and he's staying. For once, Chen refused to back down. Chen Jingshou rarely even raised his voice, but for this little stray, he found a firmness no one expected. What Chen could never have imagined was that this one stubborn decision would completely change his life. Chen was an associate professor at a university in Chongqing. He was originally from Beijing, but had settled in Chongqing for his family. Compared with the outspoken locals, this reserved northerner seemed far less fiery. So even after living there for years, and he barely had a say in his own home, then one day, he joined a university field survey outside the city. Halfway there, the driver suddenly slammed on the brake. The driver was afraid he had hit an animal. When everyone stepped out, they found a tiny puppy hiding beneath the car. Kind-hearted Chen reached for a snack to feed it. "I've got a snack right here." But when he opened the bag, he found a thick stack of cash instead. "What kind of snack is that?" Embarrassed, Chen awkwardly explained. "Just a little something my wife packed." In truth, she had tucked away cash for Chen to give the dean. Chen had been an associate professor for years, without ever receiving a promotion. His wife worried more about it than he did, so she hid the cash inside the food bag. Chen hated favors and backroom deals, and now the puppy had disrupted everything. The puppy had derailed the entire plan. One look at the helpless little animal was enough to soften Chen's heart. He turned to the driver and asked, "Where's that dog shelter you mentioned?" "Up the hill, inside a large fenced compound." Believing it was nearby, Chen decided to return the puppy there. But when he reached the so-called shelter, the place had already been abandoned. Worse, it barely resembled a shelter. It looked more like a slaughterhouse. With no other choice, Chen carried the puppy back to the car. "I couldn't leave him there. The place had been abandoned." Chen thought that, with so many educated people in the car, someone would surely take the puppy home. "Dean, why don't you take him?" "I can't. My wife was born in the year of the rooster, and she says having a dog at home is bad luck. It would be chaos." Another professor quickly declined too. He already had a cat, and bringing home a dog would start a war with his wife. These professors could lecture about lofty principles, but when it came to adopting a puppy, they all became husbands too afraid to say yes. In the end, the puppy remained in Chen's arms. There was only one problem. Chen was afraid of his wife too. Li Jiazhen had been bitten by a dog as a child, and had avoided them ever since. Before they married, they had agreed that almost anything could be discussed, except bringing a dog into the house. So Chen could not bring the puppy straight home. He hid him in his office first, and whispered for him to stay quiet. Chen still had to attend a meeting, but while he sat in the conference room, his thoughts stayed with the puppy. As the others spoke, he barely listened. When it was his turn, he rushed through his remark. He dropped the papers on the table, mumbled a few words, and hurried away. At that very moment, another professor began complaining about him. "He just took off. What is that supposed to mean?" Meanwhile, at home, Jiazhen assumed Chen had finally secured his promotion. She ended her mahjong game early, and cooked his favorite dishes with their daughter. When Chen returned, she asked their son to help him with his things, but as Xinqiao reached for the backpack, Chen quickly snatched it back, and handed him the takeout instead. Once inside, Chen said almost nothing to anyone. After making sure no one followed, he quietly slipped up to the attic. He found a bamboo basket, lined it with thick newspaper, then added a soft towel to make a small bed for the puppy. Afraid the puppy might escape, he carefully covered the basket. Only after finishing, did Chen dare go downstairs for dinner, but the puppy smelled the food, and had no intention of staying hidden. Before long, he tumbled down from the attic. Chen heard the noise, and rushed over. "How did you get down here?" Just then, Xinqiao followed him upstairs. The room instantly fell silent. The moment Jiazhen saw the puppy, she went rigid. She demanded to know whether Chen had forgotten their agreement. "I found him during the field trip. The place he came from was abandoned. He looked so helpless. He was the only one left there." But Jiazhen was not persuaded. It was not that she was cruel. She was genuinely afraid of dogs. More importantly, Chen had brought one home without asking her. To Jiazhen, this was about more than the puppy. It meant her husband had completely ignored her feelings. Unable to argue his way out of it, Chen promised to find the puppy a new home. But when someone actually came to adopt him, Chen immediately found a reason to refuse. No, absolutely not. He might bite someone. Jiazhen watched from the side, and understood exactly what he was doing. She finally agreed to let the puppy stay one more night. That evening, Chen sat on the couch watching soccer. When when his team scored. He wanted someone to celebrate with, but his son wore headphones, lost in his computer, and never even looked up. This time, however, there was a little creature beside him. The puppy barked along with Chen's excitement. That simple response made Chen realize the house suddenly felt less lonely. The next morning, Chen went straight to the attic, and found the puppy among Jiajian's mahjong tiles. The puppy seemed fascinated by them. You like this one? Do you know what it's called? This is Batong the 8 circles tile. And just like that, the unwanted stray finally had a name. He had a name, but still no permanent home. Chen insisted he was still looking for an adopter, but he rejected anyone who was unmarried, anyone who did not own a home, anyone who seemed unreliable, or simply sounded too casual. Others were trying to adopt a dog, but Chen acted as if he were choosing a son-in-law. The more Jiajian watched, the clearer it became. Chen had no intention of letting Batong go. Later, while putting up an adoption notice, Chen ran into another awkward moment. A neighbor scolded him. Use some glue and put that on the notice board. The notice described a 3-month-old male mixed-breed puppy, 3 months old, lively, gentle, and well-behaved. To Chen, Batong already felt like a child he had found. If he had to give him away, the home had to be right. But when Chen returned from posting the notices, Batong was gone. Where's the puppy? A heavy-set man took him. Which way did he go? Chen demanded. What did he look like? Where was he headed? Did anyone know him? No one did. Jiajian did not understand the panic. You wanted him adopted. Someone took him. Chen could hardly believe what he was hearing. You gave him away without asking a single question? Which way did he go? Chen immediately ran after the man. When he reached a row of meat stalls, his heart jumped into his throat. Then he spotted a suspicious man nearby. Chen rushed over to check. Thankfully, Batong was not inside. Then, a familiar bark reached Chen's ears. He followed the sound, and found Batong tied outside a restaurant. Chen had always put everyone else first, carefully weighing every consequence. But now he had only one thought. Batong was coming home. While no one was looking, Chen singed through the rope with his lighter, forgot all concern for appearances, and hurried off with Batong in his arms. Chen may not have realized it yet, but the small life he had rescued on impulse was already beginning to change him. Most of all, Chen was learning to stand his ground. And so, Batong came home with Chen once again. As Chen gave him a bath, Jiajian happened to notice that her usually stiff, serious husband looked gentler and happier than usual. Look at you. Aren't you handsome? Chen chuckled softly. You look so much better. All clean now. Look how beautiful your coat is. For the first time, Jiajian saw that side of him. After that, she stopped trying to send Batong away right away. Instead, she began helping Chen seriously screen potential adopters. The problem was that Chen's standards were absurdly high. No matter how many people they considered, no one was ever good enough. So Batong's departure kept getting postponed. Then one day, Xiaozhou brought her boyfriend home for the first time. One glance was enough to make Chen uneasy. The young man's hair was dyed bright blonde, and did not strike Chen as especially dependable. Is your hair naturally that color, or did you dye it? Ming hesitated. Chen continued. A man should take his appearance seriously, because the way he presents himself says a great deal about his state of mind. Dad, I love him. At that exact moment, someone called to ask about adopting Batong. Chen used the call to release his frustration. No, absolutely not. You're not the right person. That's final. The room was already tense, and Batong picked that moment to make things worse. He grabbed the mahjong tablecloth in his teeth. Everyone shouted in alarm. Get that dog away from the table. Jiajian finally ran out of patience. She gave Chen an ultimatum. Batong had to go. As usual, Chen sat in silence. His silence only made her angrier. She began bringing up old grievances, including the cash intended for the dean. That Chen had nearly fed to a dog. No wonder he was still only an associate professor. Chen did not argue back. He merely tried to calm her down. But Jiajian had had enough. I am telling you, if that dog is not gone today, do not bother coming upstairs tonight. I am exhausted. What kind of life is this? Hearing that, Chen fell silent again. But this time, he was not simply giving in. He was angry about his daughter's boyfriend, angry at his wife's harshness, and angry that he had no voice in his own home. Chen suddenly stood up, and released years of buried frustration. Li Jiajian, You play mahjong from morning until night. Did you ever ask my permission? Did you need it? No, because it was your choice. You loved it. And you over there, Xinqiao, your fingers are always glued to that keyboard. Your hair looks like a bird's nest. You wake up, put on sweatpants, and sit there all day without leaving the house. You practically live inside that computer. Did you ever ask my permission? Did you need to? No. Why not? Because you love it. And you, Xiaozhou, love that young man, the blonde-haired one standing right there. Did you ever ask my permission? Life is short. When you really think about it, we only get a few decades. Being with what you love is part of what makes life worth living. I never stopped any of you, because those things made you happy. So now I am standing my ground. I love this dog, and he's staying. Xiaozhou, come here. Let me officially introduce him to all of you. This is Batong. He's your little brother. His declaration left everyone stunned. Even Jiazhen had nothing to say. Chen's rare act of defiance secured Batong's place in the family. Several years later, Xiaozhou really did marry a Ming after all. The wedding banquet was lively, with children running through the aisles, and relatives offering red envelopes and congratulations. Everyone congratulated Chen on his wonderful son-in-law, but Chen could not bring himself to celebrate. Before the banquet was over, he quietly slipped away and walked upstairs alone. Firecrackers echoed below, but they could not drown out his sadness. He knew that from this day forward, there would be one fewer person at home. He was no longer the most important man in his daughter's life, yet no matter how hard it was to let go, life still had to move on. And now, Chen had Batong. With Chen's guidance, Batong grew smarter by the day. Take this over to her. Batong proudly delivered whatever Chen gave him. He's actually very good. Each morning, when Chen left for work, he usually kept Batong inside, but one day, while no one was watching, Batong slipped through the door and quietly followed Chen down the street. Always curious, Batong explored everything around him, sniffing here and peering there, but he never lost track of Chen, and followed him all the way to the cable car station. Just as the doors were about to close, Batong barked loudly. Sorry, how did you get here? He's my dog. Because pets were not allowed inside, Chen had to carry Batong back outside. At the time, dogs in public often drew uneasy looks. Chen ordered Batong to go straight home, but when the dog reached the stairs, he refused to go any farther. Chen looked at the newspaper in his hand, and suddenly had an idea. He sketched a quick note on the newspaper, then placed it in Batong's mouth. Take this to Jiazhen. As if he understood perfectly, Batong ran home with the paper in his mouth. When Jiazhen saw the drawing, she understood Chen's message immediately. She paused her mahjong game, led Batong inside, and showed him where to leave the newspaper from then on. When Chen's workday was almost over, Batong returned to the station. If a porter occupied his usual spot, Batong growled until the man moved. Only from that exact place could he see Chen the moment he appeared. Old Ma, who ran the nearby newsstand, watched the routine take shape. Soon Chen appeared at the exit. Batong, you silly boy, you didn't go home? Chen laughed in disbelief. He called Batong closer, and Batong rushed over to greet him. Chen stood there, deeply moved. For years, he had always been the one waiting for his wife's anger to pass, waiting for his wife's anger to pass, waiting for his children to come home, waiting for recognition at work, and waiting for life to show him some kindness. He had never imagined that one day, a living creature would ask for nothing, and wait in one place simply because it wanted to see him. Touched by Batong's devotion, Chen wanted to do something in return. After careful thought, he decided to cook Batong a meal himself, but Chen could barely make noodles, so the task quickly overwhelmed him. Too proud to let Jiazhen laugh at him, he refused to ask for help, and stayed alone in the kitchen, following the instructions over and over. After struggling for half the day, he finally produced something resembling dog food. Chen eagerly set the bowl down. How is it? Good? Why did you stop? Come on. Eat. Eventually, Jiazhen could not bear to watch. She took over cooking for Batong. The next day, Xinqiao received an email from Beijing. As a programmer, he dreamed of launching a company with several friends. The internet was only beginning to take off, and to him, the opportunity felt too rare to miss. If he could seize the moment, he could prove that he had chosen the right path, and finally earn his father's respect. At dinner, Xinqiao announced his decision to move to Beijing and launch a startup with several friends. Perhaps Chen feared feared his son would struggle, or simply hated the thought of him moving so far away. Either way, the decision unsettled him, but once he learned the train ticket was already bought, he swallowed every objection. I am finished eating. Say something. This is your son. He already bought the ticket. What difference would my opinion make now? Chen called to Batong. Come on, let's go. He took Batong out for their usual walk. Thunder rolled in the distance, but Chen did not turn back. Then Chen remembered that Xinchao was leaving Chongqing the next morning, and that his son's favorite food stall was about to close. So Chen pushed through the growing rain and hurried to the market. He bought 2 large bags of braised food, and asked the owner to vacuum seal everything so it would survive the long trip. Concerned for him, Jiazhen came out with an umbrella. By the time they returned home, both Chen and Batong were soaked through. Jiazhen quickly brought cold medicine, and personally made Chen take it, but Chen feared the medicine would make him oversleep, and keep him from seeing Xinchao off. Just as he feared, Chen overslept the next morning. Xinchao had already left with his luggage. Chen quickly hailed a taxi, and rushed toward the station with Batong beside him. The more desperate he became, the worse the traffic grew. With the departure time approaching, Chen could no longer sit still. He jumped out and ran toward the station with Batong, but Chen could no longer run like he once had. Before long, Chen's steps slowed. Then the train's departure whistle echoed in the distance. Batong seemed to understand at once. He sprinted ahead alone. Reaching the platform, he desperately searched for Xinchao. Batong could not speak, or explain what Chen wanted to say. He could only chase the departing train, as if telling the son inside, "Your father came too." The train slowly pulled away. Chen never reached the platform in time, but Xinchao, seated inside the train car, understood what had happened. He stared at the 2 bags of food, and a hollow ache opened in his chest. After Xinchao left for Beijing, the once lively family home now held only Chen and Jiazhen. Fortunately, Batong was still with them, softening the silence that had settled over their days. Not long afterward, Chen noticed Batong seemed smitten with another dog. "What are you talking about?" Jiazhen teased him. "You can't keep him home forever." Chen laughed. "She's actually pretty. Batong takes after me. He likes beautiful girls." Life continued. One ordinary day after another, Batong had settled into his daily newspaper routine. Then one day, the Cross River cable car closed for maintenance. Chen had to take a taxi to the university. That evening, dinner was already on the table, but Batong had not returned. After waiting for a while, Chen suddenly understood. Batong did not know the cable car was closed. Batong had to be in his usual spot, waiting for Chen to emerge from the station. By the time Chen arrived, the area was nearly deserted. Batong was still waiting in the same familiar spot. "Batong, come here, boy, my good boy. The station was closed today. I am sorry you had to wait so long. Your old man forgot about the closure. I am so sorry. Come on, let's go home." Batong did not understand maintenance closures, or why this day differed from every other one. He only knew that even after darkness fell, the person he loved finally appeared. That experience left Batong with one certainty: as long as he stayed in that spot, no matter how long the wait, Chen would always come back. Later, Chen took Batong for a walk by the river. He pulled out a bone, and buried it beneath a large tree. Then he patted the ground, and promised that next time they came, they would dig it up together. It became a small promise shared over a buried bone. Back then, both of them believed those ordinary days would last forever. One of life's deepest regrets is how easily we assume familiar days will keep repeating. We never realize that an ordinary goodbye may become the final one. Soon Chen had to leave on another research trip. Before going, he reminded Jiazhen to watch Batong and keep him from following. But shortly after Chen left, Batong slipped away and chased after him. He followed Chen as far as Old Moss newsstand. Chen tried their usual newspaper trick, hoping Batong would go home. This time, however, Batong carried the paper all the way to the station. It was as though he sensed something, as though he had so much to say, but Batong had no words. He could only stare at Chen, with an unwavering gaze. Through the cable car window, Chen waved, motioning for him to go home. Neither of them knew that this ordinary wave, just like so many before it, would be their last goodbye. During the research trip, Chen suddenly fell ill. He reached for the medicine in his bag, but before he could open it, he collapsed. Chen died of a heart attack during the trip. When the news reached the family, Jiazhen did not scream or collapse. She simply held Chen's bag, and sat quietly in the house. Some losses arrive so suddenly, that the heart cannot even begin to process them. That evening, Jiajian cooked a bowl of noodles as usual. Then she noticed 2 pieces of steamed pork belly. Chen had deliberately saved them at dinner the day before. He had asked her to keep them so he could eat them when he returned. An ordinary request had become the last promise he ever made at home. Jiajian placed the pork into the noodles and ate one bite at a time. But as she ate, tears began streaming down her face. Often, what finally breaks a person is not always the moment someone leaves, but the small routines that suddenly lose their meaning. Those details force you to understand that the person who was always beside you will be absent from every day ahead. Batong had no idea what had happened. He only knew that at this hour, he was supposed to meet Chen after work, so he waited at the station until the lights went dark, until old Ma closed his stand, and still Chen never appeared. Xiaozhou soon found him there, but Batong refused to leave. Instead, he rushed to the station entrance and kept staring inside. The sight overwhelmed Xiaozhou. Overwhelmed by grief and confusion, she finally carried Batong home. Back at the house, the family searched for a photograph of Chen to use at his memorial. They looked through every album, but could not find a suitable portrait. We never took one truly good picture of him, because he was always behind the camera. While sorting through Chen's belongings, Jiajian found something in the study. The 8 circles mahjong tile. That tiny tile had inspired Batong's name. She fastened it to Batong's collar. On the day of the funeral, the family feared Batong might run away, so they left him inside the house. When he found the front door locked, Batong refused to settle down. He climbed onto the roof searching for another way out, then escaped along the edge of the building. Once again, he returned to the cable car station. Rain suddenly began falling, but Batong remained curled up in his familiar spot. The sight deeply moved old Ma. He knew Chen would never come, but could not bring himself to chase Batong away. Instead, he quietly opened an umbrella and held it over the dog. Not long afterward, the old neighborhood was marked for demolition. Xinqiao planned to bring his mother to Beijing, but dogs were not allowed in his rental apartment. Batong was temporarily sent to live with Xiaozhou, and so, he spent more than 6 months in the apartment. Yet every day, he stared out the window into the distance. Xiaozhou and Aming were busy working, and had little time to take him outside. Then one day, the door was left slightly open. Batong seized the chance and ran. Following streets he still remembered, he returned to the old family home. But when he arrived, almost nothing looked familiar. With nowhere else to go, Batong ran toward the river, searching for the place where he and Chen had buried the bone. The rising river had swallowed the old tree. The promise they had once made was now, like the song over the scene, an unfinished regret. The house was gone. The place of their buried promise was gone too. The world kept moving forward, but Batong remained trapped in the day Chen vanished. In the end, he returned to the cable car station. After every other familiar place had vanished, this station was the only place where some hope of Chen's return still remained. Late that night, Xiaozhou found him again, and carried him back to the apartment. To keep him from escaping, Xiaozhou arranged for relatives in the countryside to take him. The family believed the countryside offered more space for Batong to move around freely. With enough time, perhaps he would adjust to a new life, and gradually let go of the past. But Batong had never wanted a field where he could roam anywhere. During the drive, Batong broke free and leapt from the vehicle. He struck the ground hard, and injured his leg, yet kept moving, dragging himself onward. He made it back to the station. Old Ma froze when he saw him. From that day forward, Batong remained near the station for good. Whenever the station closed at night, old Ma repeated Chen's old routine, and handed Batong a newspaper. Batong carried it back to the ruined house, placed it in the familiar spot, and slept there until morning. The next morning, he returned to the station, and waited for the familiar man to appear. Thankfully, old Ma and the local porters kept caring for him. Day after day, year after year, nearly 10 years passed after Chen's death. The cable car station was renovated, and transformed into a tourist attraction. The changes also left the porters without work. "There's no work left for us here. I'll have to find something else. Maybe help at my family's restaurant, or sell fruit. Take care of yourself." Batong could not understand how much life had changed. He only knew that Chen had once appeared here every day. So when Chen failed to arrive, he believed he simply had not waited long enough. Surely Chen would return tomorrow. The tourist project was eventually completed. Crowds now visited the station, but almost no one knew Batong's story. Then one day, Jiajian and Xinchao returned to Chongqing. They stopped for a familiar bowl of bingfen. Jiajian never imagined that in a place where everything had changed, Batong would still be there. His longing had endured through every single day. 10 years had transformed his appearance. His once bright coat had dulled, but some things had never left his memory. When old Ma, as he had for years, offered Batong a newspaper, the dog turned around and followed the old route home. Jiajian and Xinchao followed behind him. They had assumed Batong only waited outside the station for someone who could never return. Only after following him into the crumbling remains of the family home did they understand that the station was only half of his waiting. As Jiajian remembered their life there, Xinchao suddenly called out, "Mom, come down here, hurry." After all those years, Batong had still been keeping the same promise. After delivering the newspaper one last time, Batong slowly closed his eyes. In his final moments, he seemed young again. Then he caught a familiar scent. Following it, he climbed the stairs one step at a time. A warm beam of light opened before him, and on the other side, the man he had waited for was waiting for him too. "You silly boy, no one lives here. Yet you kept waiting. I am sorry I made you wait so long. I am truly sorry." In the film's final symbolic vision, Chen carries Batong onto the cable car he never rode, and together they disappear into a warm light. Waiting is the film's most painful theme. Anyone who has ever lived with a dog, anyone who has been loved with that kind of unwavering devotion, will understand that feeling. You may be gone for only one workday, but to your dog, it can feel like a lifetime. And even without a dog, most of us have known someone who waited for us. Maybe it was a light left on at home, a pair of chopsticks waiting at the table, or a voice asking, "Did you make it home safely?" Share your thoughts in the comments. Has anyone ever waited for you like that? And is there someone you still remember with regret? That brings the story to an end. I am Chin Lai. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.